you've had an experience with Chase, and I'm curious about what you learned and what that experience was like, and moving forward, because obviously you didn't see it the same way maybe at Martinsville, but then he put the nudge and put you in the wall in Phoenix. If that evened the score, or if that made you change your ideas about him, or anything, just your experience with him, that Kyle may be going through, may have to go through some of this in the near future.
Well, I think Kyle handled it the best he possibly could, to be honest. I think that he owned up to it. He knew he made a mistake, and I knew I made a mistake when it happened. If you look back at my interview, I said, well, he crashed because I ran into him. I basically lifted his back tires up. He had no options. But it's we're talking about this more, right? Because he's popular, and obviously they were up towards the front. You don't see Kyle Busch making a mistake that often, but everyone is cutthroat on the space right now. Listen, even Chase, I mean, he cut us off at least twice where we ran into the back of him and got us some nose damage over these last two events. But, I don't fault him, because everyone's fighting for the inch or two of space that you need. Kyle, obviously, when I went back and looked at it, it was exactly, he explained it exactly like it happened. He's trying to fit in a hole, because if he doesn't get in that hole behind the 9 and in front of the 4, he will get freight trained and probably go back to 4th or 5th before he gets back in line. So he saw an opportunity. It's almost like super speedway racing. He tried to jump up in front of the line. He thought that the 9 had a faster run going, and he's looking in his mirror, turned right, and misjudged. It happens in our sport more than you notice, and guys are pissed off at each other more than you notice. It's just two people that it involved are pretty popular.
Does Chase, from his point of view, need to respond on track, even if Kyle apologizes, just to show everybody else on the circuit that you can't mess with me, or there's a limit? That obviously everything that you guys do, you're not just doing it for one person, but it's the entire field that's seeing the action and reaction. Does Chase need to do anything, or does that potentially hurt him if he does something in kind to Kyle?
Well, you can look at it a couple different ways. I would say if Chase were to retaliate, that's intentional, right? We all know it's intentional. What Kyle did was unintentional. Now, is the score really even if one's intentional and one is not? Probably not. The result might be equal, but it's not equal as far as intention. So I don't know. I have a different philosophy. As you well know, me and Brad Kozlowski had our differences over the same kind of thing, right? Early in our career, me and him would get into it week in, week out. And his mentality as a young guy trying to prove himself in the sport was that you can't push me around. I'm going to stick up for myself. If you cut me off, I'm just going to crash you. And while he did make it to the Cup Series, it's when he started thinking with his mind, in my opinion, is when he became more successful. And if someone runs into the back of you at Martinsville, you don't just back off and then go cram them in the next corner. That's why you end up with your hood popped up, and you never win a race at Martinsville. You have to know when to push back. And I don't think you have to because of pressure from either your team or the media or whatever. The drivers respect Chase, and they respect whoever it might be. They don't – if Chase doesn't retaliate, no driver thinks any less of him. Every driver out there saw that Kyle just made a small mistake. He misjudged. We don't go out there and expect Chase to do anything to him. If he does, then that raises your eyebrow more than what Kyle did, in my opinion. So I don't think that Chase needs to fight for relevance. We all know he's good and he's talented, and he's going to win a ton of races. And I don't race him any different. I race him tough. It's just the same as I did before I crashed him at Martinsville. That's a sign of respect for me, is to race someone tough and that given. But there is times where you don't always have to race tough. You have to race smart too, and that's what wins races.
Hey, Motorsports fans, thanks for watching. Make sure you hit subscribe before you go for all the latest news and highlights across motorsports.